Hi, how is everyone doing today, my friends? So, sometimes we get so caught up in this flow of life that we all have to deal with. We all have to go through it, right? That we end up forgetting about ourselves. I was just talking about this on the last video that I posted, and it's, you really have to hammer this down. You really have to hammer this down because that is one of the biggest problems that every person faces in their lives is the fact that we forget about ourselves. We literally abandon ourselves. And all these things that we are trying to achieve, whatever they may be. Sometimes you're trying to do something and you're trying and you're trying and you're trying, and then eventually you give up, right? That's what most people do. They give up. But most people, you know, which is a general thing, obviously, most people don't realize that all of those things, they're already here. It's already here. But the question is, have you learned how to tap into it yet? Because we live in a world and we live in a reality that is full of possibilities. So if you think of it in terms of different possibilities, or should I say different realities, right? Because reality is always layered in different frequencies, possibilities, vibrations, timelines, even. That somewhere in between there lies this possibility or this reality, so to speak, where all these things that you're trying to do for yourself, whatever they are, doesn't matter what the relation is, what the final goal, so to speak. The only thing missing is that you haven't figured out how to tap into it. And the only reason why you haven't is because chances are, among many other things, that most likely you've forgotten about yourself, you abandoned yourself. You're putting all that focus outwards, forgetting to go within. And that's one of the biggest reasons why most of the time things don't go the way you expected them to go. You have to remember who you are. First and foremost, remember who you truly are. Because the longer you fight that, the longer you hide yourself from yourself. Yeah, that sounds crazy, doesn't it? But that's what most people do. We hide ourselves from ourselves. We create all this, you know, how do you say it again? We create all these like motives, reasons, justifications, false premises to hide us from us, if that makes any sense. And what I'm talking about here is, all the issues that we have that come all the way, back from our childhood up until the present time because of generational trauma issues, things that we carry, from our parents, our childhood, or the way we were brought up, all this stuff that I've talked about over and over and over again. And try to remember when you were a little kid. And when we're kids, we never think about competing with one another, especially when we're really young. When we're kids, we just do everything together with our friends, right? And we have fun doing it. We enjoy it. We love it. Because that's what being a kid is all about. Everything is an adventure. Everything is an experience. Everything is full of happiness, full of joy. Because when we're children and we haven't yet developed our ego and all these ways of thinking and all this stuff that I talked about so many times, there's no judging. There's no difference. We don't see things that way yet. So we act based upon this universal knowing and instinct that's a real part of you, that it's all about the experience. So might as well have fun in the process, right? And later on we put that aside, and then we develop this like competition spirit, which is where all the problems start, stemming from. Because you're not here to compete with anybody. Forget about that. What makes you feel that you have to compete with somebody else? Because that's going to create so many issues. And I'm not going to explain this stuff because, these things at this point in your life should be self-explanatory. You should be able to see the damage and the issues that these things will cause on anybody's lives when we see everyone around us. Sometimes that will include even family, loved ones, people that you're married to, that you have a relationship with, a boyfriend, girlfriend. It doesn't matter. Life is not a competition. It's never been about that. And as long as people treat it as such, things just, they're not going to work the way you think they will. Trust me on that. I know what I'm talking about, guys. I've lived these things. I've experienced it all. And, when you start turning that energy inwards, you change the game, you change the rules, because now you understand that you have to be the one that's going to look out for yourself, that's going to take care of yourself, that's going to love yourself before you even worry about things like that outside of you. Your energy, your focus should always be turned inwards so that you can put that learning process and make it so it turns into growth, real growth. It's like you plant a seed, right? You plant the seed of whatever it is on the soil, but that seed, it needs some form of caring. Yeah, obviously the sun is gonna help, the sunlight, the rain, all these things. But if you're trying to grow something out of the ground like that, you need to nurture it. And you need to make sure you do it right. Otherwise, it's going to eventually wilt and die. And that applies to anyone's lives as well. If you want to grow something or make something grow from within you, you have to know how to nurture it. And you're never going to be able to nurture things like that properly if you're living your life in competition mode. That's backwards thinking right there. Because that kind of mindset is the mindset that you're already thinking yourself as, or putting yourself in a position as you are already less than someone else, smaller than someone else, unworthy of things. And the list is long. I could be here for hours talking about this, but you get the picture. So you need to nurture yourself. First and foremost, always. And then by doing that, you tap into that version of you that's already there, waiting for it to bloom and blossom. And once you manage to tap into that, you don't have to worry about anything else. It's a matter of trusting the flow, knowing and understanding and believing in yourself. You have to believe with your heart, your soul, your mind, every fiber of your being, every drop of blood that runs in your bloodstream, your DNA. Because you have already always been enough. You're not missing anything. There's nothing to prove. Because you're not lower than anyone or anybody, for that matter. We are all equal here. The material aspect of things, it's an illusion. I've talked about this as well. Yeah, there's people out there with lots of things. Do they get to keep any of that when they shed their physical vessel? Do they get to take any of those sparkly things to the other side? No, those things don't matter. They matter here in this reality. And yes, obviously we need some of those things to have a life here, to properly, keep our bodies alive, have a roof over our heads, pay the bills, so to speak, all that stuff, right? But outside of that aspect, none of the other stuff will matter in the grand scheme of things. The universe doesn't care about these things because that's not how the universe works. I know, that for some people this might sound out of the ordinary, outlandish, or whatever, but that's what it is. We've learned, we've been told to believe in this lie that we have to anchor ourselves in the material here, and everything outside of material things shouldn't matter at all, when it's actually the opposite. We should focus less on the material aspect of things and worry about our own development, because only by developing ourselves can we then achieve the things that we would like to achieve. That's pretty much it, really. It's no secret formula. It's just, you're not lower than anyone. Never let anybody make you think that way or feel that way, because when you start doing things like that to yourself, that's where all your problems are coming from. If you're new to the channel or not, and you resonate with what I say and the content, please like, share, subscribe. It means a lot. It helps the channel grow and reach those that are meant to be reached by my messages. I love you all, and I will catch you all next time. Never stop loving yourselves. Don't forget that part. Take care, my friends, and I'll talk to you later.